All right, y'all. Welcome to my side hustle from the Virtue Signal called The Signal Response. Virtue Signal is the jam that I do with Bill Whittle, available at billwhittle.com. He also has the YouTube channel here. And so this is me basically responding to folks who are kind enough to tune into our content called The Virtue Signal, where we, explore what is virtue, man? Virtue according to who, right? So the thing that I bring to the table is the foundation of the Word of God. That said, we're going to build a perception of virtue. If we're going to understand what virtue is, man, we need a solid foundation of what to do that from. And the Word of God is what I offer up as far as that goes. And so in this episode of the Virtue Signal, we came across a man who decided that racism was just so bad. The racism against him was so bad that he's got to leave the military. He just doesn't want to fly the F-22 anymore, and just wants to be a lawyer. Interesting. Okay, and I got the link to the video where Bill and I talk about this, and from my perspective, I'm like, man, it doesn't seem to make any sense, man. That if it's so racist in the military, and you think that there's so much white supremacy in the military, it doesn't make sense that they would give you the keys to an aircraft of air superiority. I'm talking about, that you get to fly like the upper echelon of aircraft, man, of fighter planes, and you're hung up on racism. That doesn't seem logical, man. It's I think you're looking too hard. I think in this case you're overly sensitive, and if you feel like people drove you out of the military, I don't know. It might have been because they had an instinct about you, because I think you're probably just a little bit too sensitive to being a pilot. You can't get to that status, man. With all this racism that's against you. It's like, okay, yeah, we're racist, but we're gonna give you over, we're gonna give this plane over to you, man. I don't know. And don't get me wrong, y'all, and we talk about this. I'm not making excuses for anybody. I'm not saying that there is no racism. It's like there is. There is some racism out there, but I think one thing I know for sure, I'm not gonna, me, y'all listen to me. I don't say that there's no systemic racism. I don't say that there's no white supremacy. I don't say that these things don't exist. But I know where it comes from, right? And when you have conservatives out there talking about there's no systemic racism or white privilege and all that sort of stuff, you guys are giving the Democrats a pass. Remember, they're the institution of that. And when you say that these things don't exist, you just wipe the Democrats' slate clean, and you leave the field wide open for the Democrats to go and blame you. And that's why people think that the party switched sides, and that's why they're able to accuse you of racism, because you just gave the Democrats a pass. I'm trying to tell you guys, don't do that, right? However, this is one of those cases like, look, man, I think you're way too sensitive about race. You're way too insecure. You've allowed yourself to be way too insecure about it, to where it's like, you think that you're going to be freed from, from racism by going into being a lawyer, right? Especially when you have when our justice system is a legion of liberals and Democrats, right? Legions of lawyers who are liberals and Democrats, and these activist judges and stuff like that. Who do you think is putting all these black folks in jail, right? So it's like, when you look at these areas where you got high black incarceration rate and stuff like that, and this prison industrial complex, is like, okay, yeah, it does exist. And look who's running the justice system, right? So I don't think this person is as woke as he thinks he is. And if he's going to be offended by all the black folks that are in jail, you just make sure who your colleagues are. These people that you're going to be rubbing elbows with, well, they're Democrats, and they're the ones who are putting these people, who are putting black folks behind bars. That's Democrats. That's that systemic racism that conservatives say doesn't exist. You guys would do yourself a favor to stop saying that, because it's Democrats who seem to have a fetish for putting black folks behind bars. All right. So, and you guys are letting them off the hook with that. And you wonder why they're able to do the stuff that because you just gave up your weapons. You like laid down your weapons. You just let them take it, and they're using them on you. So this person, I think, is just being overly sensitive. But anyway, I talk, about that stuff, with Bill Whittle. I hope you guys will check out the episode. In the meantime, I'm just responding to people's feedback in it, because I'm very grateful that you guys tune into the show. And I just want to rap with you a little bit, examine some of you guys' feedback, chop it up a little bit. And, maybe some of the stuff I may disagree with, maybe some of the stuff I just really agree with. And I want to share it with other folks, and like I said, at the end of the day, I'm just grateful that you guys tune in. And I just want to say thank you. Um, so one of the inputs that we got was from Carl Ranke. Please forgive me, Carl, if I said your name wrong here. YouTube user Carl Ranke, Reinke, says that I have said for a very long time that by the very act of bringing up race in every aspect of life, we are actually creating more racist. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, and a lot of people like it that. I usually see that meme that goes around when Morgan Freeman say, "You want to know how you solve race? you throw it into the cornhole. I mean, the wormhole. Or anyway, you know how you solve race? You just stop talking about it. Right? Just stop talking about it. That's my Morgan Freeman voice. How'd I do? Did I do okay? All right. Through the through the cornhole. Through the wormhole. Now he says. And the sad part of it is that I think right around the time that Morgan Freeman said, you know how you solve race? You stop talking about it. And I think not too long after, he started going off about how racist the Tea Party was. Like, Morgan, hey, you're talking about racism. I thought you said to not talk about it anyway. But it's one of those things, y'all, where we're talking about race and the objective of this, y'all, the objective of Democrats with doing this, the Democrats, of course, they want to have a race war because they're obsessed with race. And they know, and y'all, this goes all the way back to the Confederacy. With the Democrats' obsession with race, their obsession with owning black people, right? That's the Confederacy. And for you conservatives out there who have this strange, sick sympathy with the Confederacy, you wonder why people think that the party switched sides. The Confederacy wasn't just some entity that existed because it thought that, Lincoln was so oppressive. The Confederacy was Democrats. The Confederacy was represented by Democrats. They established the Confederacy. They were rebels against the Constitution then. They're rebels against the Constitution now. They want to impose their will on people today, the same way that they wanted to impose their will on people back then. But I guess it only matters when they want to impose their will on you. Now you can see them as these authoritative tyrants who want to impose their will because they want to impose their will on you. But it didn't seem that way when they wanted to impose their will on black folks, right? And so you guys don't make the correlation with the Democrats to the Confederacy. You just see the Confederacy. It's American history. It's about liberty and states' rights and all that sort of stuff. And then you wonder why people think that you're the racist who switch sides with Democrats, that you are the Democrats, that you're the Dixiecrats. Okay? You don't seem to understand that the Confederacy was the psychotic, tyrant-infested Democrats. That's who the Confederacy was. You don't get it that they were Democrats while you're out there making arguments for the Confederacy. It's like, it's sad. It's sad because they don't realize what they're doing to themselves, but at any rate, the Democrats using race then, this whole thing that was about race then is the same thing now. And they're trying to force people to be sick of each other. Why? Because they want the destruction of the republic. Why? It's like people wonder, it's like, why do Democrats want to destroy America? Y'all, it's very simple. Because their worldview, they can't stand it. They can't stand it that our rights are God-given. They don't like that. Please hear me out on this. Democrats do not like it that our rights are God-given. They hate God. All right? And they want a democracy, not a republic, where these laws are fixed and set. We're under the rule of law, a law that is based in the fact that our rights are God-given. Well, Democrats don't want that. They want a democracy. Democracy, because they want to be able to outvote what our rights are positioned on. They want to be able to outvote God. Our rights come from God. Democrats do not like that. They want to be able to outlaw that. They want whatever they feel entitled to be law. That's what they want us to be ruled by, not under the rule of law that is established by God and a government that is supposed to maintain our God-given rights. So Democrats want to be able to impose their will on other people. They want other people to facilitate what they feel entitled to. That's just who they are, right? They want the popular vote. That's when we talk about Democrats, when you break the word down, it's talking about what's popular. And they want the popular vote, right? And usually selfish ideals tend to be very popular. self-righteous ideals, selfish ideals, people that things that people feel entitled, indulgences and stuff like that, comforts facilitated by other people. These things tend to be very popular, right? And this is what Democrats go for. So one of the ways to get people to do that is targeting people's insecurities, right? So, making people victims. Now, Democrats will get out there and actually victimize people and turn them into victims. And because people are blinded by the rage of being violated, victimized, and stuff like that, it's like they're not clear on who their victimizers were. And then you have the Democrats saying, "Oh, it was them," right? And then Democrats act like they're the ones who can save them. And that's how Democrats operate. They're accusers, right? They go and they make the violation, and then they accuse somebody else of doing it, and then people trust the accuser by default because the accuser is supposed to be the virtuous one who is trying to admonish somebody else, right? So it makes the Democrats look virtuous. And Democrats are still doing that crap today. They want to destroy the republic. And their biggest weapon is the race narrative, and which conservatives help them do. Conservatives, they just don't understand that. And in their pride, they refuse to understand it. But they give the Democrats everything that they need to be able to promote this narrative. And the ones that they have on the front line to fire the weapon of racism are blacks. They get to blacks first, right? They get to blacks first, and then they start conditioning them. Black folks aren't inherently enemies of America. Black folks are taught to be. Democrats make sure they get to them early, right? Making sure that they get to black folks. Democrats make sure that they're in Sesame Street, right? They make sure that they're in them cartoons and stuff like that. They make sure that they're teaching your kids, and conservatives be sending their kids to school to learn all this wokeness, right? Democrats are influencing your kids. You paying for it. Conservatives be like, we need to do something about these indoctrination camps. And you know that they're indoctrination camps. We need to get our kids back in school. So why are you trying to send our kids back to these indoctrination camps, right? But that's where Democrats are. They've been there for decades, teaching your kids, right? And the biggest target for them to indoctrinate are black kids, right? They got to get to them first. They got to make sure that they're nice and insecure, right? Make sure that they see themselves as slaves and all insecure about that and whatnot. And Democrats play to that. And Democrats target that insecurity and just bolster it. They keep feeding that insecurity, right? So that's why you end up seeing a person who can fly an F-22 Raptor and be like, everybody's racist and I don't want to be a pilot anymore. It's like, wow, dude, seriously? That's why we have stuff like that. Democrats play on that stuff. And the objective, y'all, is to make us sick of each other because they do want a race war. Right? They want another civil war. It's going to be centered around race again. For those conservatives out there who say, oh, the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. Oh, my God. You guys are not helping, right? You seem to forget we're dealing with Democrats here. The Confederacy, Democrats, okay? When you knuckleheads out there keep trying to say that the Civil War had nothing to do with race, you just gave the Democrats a pass, and you obviously don't know who Democrats are. You don't know. You really don't understand who Democrats are, and you don't know who the Republican Party is. Is that you guys call yourselves Republicans, but you really don't know you don't know who they are. You don't know who you are as a Republican. I guess the only reason why you don't like Democrats and you want to call yourself a Republican is what? You don't like taxes? You know, or what? You're afraid that the Democrats are going to come and get your guns, and that's why you don't like Democrats. You want to be a Republican without really understanding what it is to be a Republican, and you don't even know who the Democrats are? If you can't make the connection, if you do not understand that the Confederacy was the Democrats, you do not know who Democrats are. While you're out there talking about Confederate history is American history, and you make bolster while giving the Democrats a pass. It's really sad, man. It's so flipping sad, right? These people get on my nerves. But anyway, the Democrats are at it again. And they're making us sick of each other. They want and the sad part of it is that it's working. A lot of these conservatives, it's working on them. You see these conservatives right now, it's like you could feel it, right? You can feel the Democrats getting to it and making these conservatives be the people who are developing an animus against, people of color. And when I say people of color, I'm just talking about people who aren't white. I'm not talking about blacks in particular. I'm talking about blacks, Mexicans, Asians, whichever. Democrats are doing that, and conservatives are falling for it. It's sad. Conservatives, it's so sad that conservatives, they think that a lot, not all, but too many conservatives think that they're immune to the influence of Democrats. And I'm sorry, you're just not. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of conservatives out there think that the Democrats have manipulated blacks and manipulated women and manipulated Jews and manipulated, all these people who are voting for them. But you got a lot of conservatives, these same conservatives, they're being manipulated by Democrats too. When you got conservatives out there waving the Confederate flag, basically waving around the Democrats' flag, yeah, they got to you too. Trust me. All right. So the Confederate flag has nothing to do with Republicans. Those who waved the Confederate flag were morbid enemies of Republicans. All right. They had murderous hatred against you. All right. While you think that it's all about your Southern pride and all that. So Confederate flag has nothing to do with Southern pride. That's something that you were influenced to believe. They played on your territorial sentiments. That's what Democrats do. They play on the pride and sentiments of people, their race, their gender, their territory. That's why the war became known as something between the North and the South. It wasn't really about the North and the South. It was between Republicans and Democrats. Abolitionist Republicans who said slavery has to stop. Democrats, you can't just be taking people's liberty. And Democrats were like, no, we're entitled to this. And there was a war. No, Lincoln was a tyrant who took away habeas corpus and all that. He was just Northern aggression. It's like, okay, wait a minute. You're going to come after Lincoln and give the Democrats a pass for all the nasty stuff that they were doing? But the North, they had slaves too. Of course the North had slaves because they had Democrats there. When were Republicans able to have some slavery? The second the Republican Party was established, they went to war to end slavery. When did they have time to own slaves? Right? It was Democrats doing that. But people get caught up in their sentiments, territorial sentiments. That's why the Confederate flag has become associated as a symbol of Southern culture. It wasn't Southern, all right? It's not a symbol of Southern pride. It's a symbol of Democrat shame. That's what the Confederate flag is. Democrats put that together. You got these Southern Republicans out there waving around the Democrat flag. Ooh, let's go to NASCAR. And you got the American flag, and you got the Trump flag, and you got the Confederate flag, right? And you wonder why people think the party switched sides. Well, you got that flag out there that was sewn together by the Democrat Party, and you waving their flag. And you don't think they got to you? You don't think they got in your head? Sad, man. Sad. You guys do it too. It's that pride, dude, I'm telling you. So Democrats have masterfully manipulated conservatives. Yes, conservatives, you've been masterfully manipulated. You play into the Democrats' hands every time, and Democrats know what they're doing, and their objective is to make you. They're making you dislike, right, and trying to get you to where you hate people who are not. When I talk about conservatives, I'm talking about white conservatives, right? White Republican voters, right? They're trying to make you sick. They're trying to make you sick of other nationalities, right? Trying to just pull it out of you. And a lot of conservatives are falling for it. You can feel it, right? Sorry, it's a feeling. You can detect it. And I see it in the comments and stuff like that. You got a whole bunch of conservatives posting, black guy, look what this black guy did. Look what this black guy did. It's always, oh, now look what the black guys are doing, right? Trying to show that. Why? Because you got a lot of these, white conservatives that are out there. They're so sick of the media, saying white cop did this, white cop. Just like, I get it. And so their response, and this is how a lot of conservatives responded. Well, look what this black guy did. What about what black people are doing? Look what black people are doing, right? Is that the best you got, right? To respond by saying, well, look, we need to talk about the bad stuff that black people are doing, because the media is always just talking about what white cops are doing or what white people are doing. So let's point out what black people are doing, right? I don't like either one. I hate I don't give into this garbage of race narrative. I got my admonishments for these white elitist liberals who are doing it in mainstream media, and I got my admonishments for these sucker conservatives who are being led by the nose by these Democrats. You're loud. You've totally, man, talk about Sith mind tricking somebody. Conservatives are falling for this, playing right into their hands, man. Maybe it's like, you can talk about conservative, news and all you want. Maybe y'all need to turn that off for a minute, because they're making bank off of you. What are you getting? While these conservative, news channels, whether it's Fox News or OAN or Newsmax or whichever, what are you getting from it? Right? What are you getting? You're not really getting. The only thing you're getting is angry. Well, you think you're getting informed? They're making bank off of you, man. They're making bank off of y'all. And they're just keeping their ratings up, because you're just tuning in because you want to indulge in being angry. and you don't even know how you're being manipulated by both the left-wing media and the right-wing media. Okay, and don't get me wrong, y'all, because I'm not one of those that say, well, I'm an independent, and I don't pick sides, stuff like that. No, I'm a conservative Republican, right? I'm not going to give the Democrats the satisfaction of taking that away from me, because that's what they wanted in the first place. That's why they put on hoods and sheets, because they were terrorists that were dispatched against the Republican Party. Because the Republican Party is like, hey, man, you can't be infringing on people's God-given rights. Knock it off. Democrats got it through a hissy fit, and they formed the KKK, mad at Republicans. Right? So I'm not going to give the satisfaction to Democrats by leaving the Republican Party. You know, I'm a right winger, y'all. Conservative, Republican, Christian first. That's my discipline. But, you know, I see a lot of, but man, I'm just not giving over. I'm not a junkie for this right wing, what's being done with the right wing. I don't have a problem with the right wing. I got a problem with what's being done with it. Right? And because the right wing is being mind molested by the left, and they don't realize it. It's really sad, man. It's a sad thing to see. And I don't have a place really at the table anymore, because too many in the conservative camp or Republican voter camp is that you don't really see much of me anymore, because I don't fit what they need. I don't fit what they need. They want blacks to apologize. That's the kind of blacks that they want. They want blacks who are going to apologize and say, no, and testify that there's no such thing as systemic racism. These are the kind of blacks that the conservative mainstream media wants. That's what they want. They want the blacks who say that there's no white supremacy and that there's no systemic racism and there's no white privilege, and make these arguments defending white conservatives or white America. That's who they want. They want those, right? And I'm not one of them. So I'm the one who says, yeah, dude, I'm not holding white conservatives responsible for white supremacy, white privilege, or anything. It's not I don't hold you responsible for that. But I do know that when people wanted their white privilege instituted and systemic racism and white supremacy, I know that when they wanted that represented, they went to Democrats. And Democrats are still doing it today. I'm wise enough to not let the Democrats off the hook when you got too many conservatives out there who are dropping the ball on that. And the blacks that they want out there represent the token Negroes that Democrats talk about, they want those out there. Oh yeah, put them on Fox News. And so they'll testify for us and say that there's no, and they'll say the things that we want them to say, like there's no white supremacy and there's no systemic racism and there's no white privilege. Yeah, put them out there. Who's that Zoe guy? Who was he? He doesn't say those things. So let's just keep him. He doesn't exist, right? Let YouTube go ahead and ban him to the shadows and keep him in a ditch. We'll keep him there, right? But we don't want to hear from him anymore because he doesn't make the apologies for us that we want him to make. He talks weird, right? He knows he tells us that we can't use the word radical. You can use the word whatever you want. It just has consequences, right? He gets in the way of us, being puffed up with pride and MAGA and all that sort of stuff. I'm just not useful in that way, right? I'm not the kind of black person that a lot of and that doesn't mean that they're racist. I don't think conservatives are racist or anything like that. I just think conservatives have just the wrong approach. Too many conservatives. There's a blessed few, y'all. There's a blessed few conservatives who do understand. They get it, right? Cats like Bill Whittle. Bill Whittle understands. Yeah, maybe this is something to consider, And Bill Whittle's, been on this frequency for a while anyway, right? He knows, So when you got cats like Bill Whittle, it's like, yeah, this is something that I wouldn't mind sharing with folks, because maybe folks need to understand this. I'm not, like Bill Whittle doesn't have me on to be an apologist, to apologize, right, for white conservatives. That's not why Bill and I connected. Bill's not one of those. It's like, look, man, you got the floor. Let's share this perspective, because evidently we got to this position where we have this cheater in the White House because maybe, just maybe conservatives might want to rethink some things. So Bill's not one of those who found me useless, right? Because I don't toe the line of just saying being some apologist for white conservatives. Right? I'm trying to help y'all. I'm not just trying to tell y'all what you want to hear. I'm trying to tell you what you need to hear. All right. And I'm not going to do you any favors by out there apologizing for you and helping you guys drop the ball and give the Democrats a free shot against you. And that's what conservatives keep doing. And that's one of the reasons why they keep going to these black conservatives who are helping the Democrats take free shots against you. It doesn't do you any good to show, so look, we have black people who like us. We have black people who will testify for us. It's like, no, that doesn't work. I'm trying to, is it not proven to y'all that it doesn't work? Y'all been listening to this. Y'all don't listen to me. How many of you see me on there? Right? Nobody, y'all don't listen. You're trying to tell me that what I'm trying to tell you doesn't work? No, the method that y'all tried doesn't work. It's proven to not work. You've lost your country. All right? And that's why you're admission, because y'all keep saying we need to take our country back. We got to take our country back. If you're saying that you need to take your country back, that means you lost your country. And you lost it because you took the wrong approach on it. Right? Don't change your values. Don't change your principles or anything like that. You got to change your approach. The strategy has to change. All right. So at any rate, y'all, once again, trying to help here. So let's see. Let's go to AX056 says, I don't care what color your skin is. And just let me stop right there. For conservatives, that's not a good thing to say. I understand why you say you don't care what a person's skin color is. I understand why, because you're just saying, I judge by content of character, not by color of skin. I totally understand. Okay. But please understand there's a transmission and a reception when it comes to a communication. When you send this signal, you have to please bear in mind what a person is receiving. Okay, when you tell somebody that you don't care what their skin color is, people identify themselves with certain things. Yeah, I know it's identity politics. Doesn't mean that you have to change your principle. It just means that you may need to change the way you communicate, how you're saying it. Because everybody has a sense of identity with the things that people identify with the state that they came from, the city that they came from. Oh, Angelino's up in here. Oh, yeah, I'm from Ohio. Or yeah, people identify with the territory that they came from. That's part of their identity. Right? So it could be the state, the city that they came from. It could be their skin color. It could be their gender. It could be their religion or whichever. When you go out there saying, I don't care about your skin color and stuff like that, a person doesn't hear you saying, I don't care about your skin color. I care about your character. What they're hearing you say is that when you say that you don't care about my skin color, what you're saying is that you don't care about me. Right? People identify with these things. I don't care if you're a woman. What a woman here say, oh, what you're saying is that you don't care about me, because they identify with being a woman. A person identifies, it's like, it doesn't matter if you could be white. If you're Irish, I don't care what part of, what culture you're from. I don't care if you're Scottish or Irish. What that person here is, what you're telling me is that you don't care about me. Right? Because they identify with being Irish, or they identify with being Scottish, right? Or things like that. People identify with their cultures or their skin color. So when you're out there saying, I don't care, what you're saying is that you don't care about them. And that's a problem that people have with each other, is because people feel like people don't care about each other, right? So that's the thing that you might want to change, or just reword the way you're saying it. Just go ahead and say, look, man, I judge by character, not by color of skin. Just go ahead and say the full thing. I judge by character, right? I'm not the kind of person who, it's like, I'm not hung up on skin color. It's like, if I see a person is white, I know they're white. If I know they're Asian, I know they're Mexican, I know they're black. Now from there, I don't make a judgment about it, but I don't pretend to be colorblind. There's colors. If I'm able to see colors, great, man. Colors are beautiful. I recognize them, but I don't make any judgments about them, right? It's like, I either like you or dislike you based on your character. But I don't, tend to tell people, I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're white or anything like that, because people identify with these things. And when you say that, basically what they hear is, well, you don't care about me, right? So, it's unfortunate that people are sensitive about that. Yeah, it's like, on that end, I would say, hey, you might not want to be so sensitive. When somebody tells you that they don't care about your skin color, don't be so flippant sensitive and take it to mean that they don't care about you. Right? Or they don't care about your people or anything like that. Basically, what that person is telling you is that they don't judge you by your skin color. Your content, the content of your character is what matters. So people out there, when you hear somebody say, they don't care about your skin color, they're not trying to say that they don't care about you. They're simply saying that they make their judgments on whether they like you or not based on your character. It's nothing to do with your color. All right. So can we come to a place of clear communication about that, where people aren't so sensitive or abrasive or insensitive? You got people who are too sensitive, and you got people who are too insensitive, concerning these things, let's, give a little, without, but like I said, usually the ones who are overly sensitive about that, they're not coming from a place that's really solid, emotionally, anyway. I'm speaking to the, hey, on the conservative end, yes, I'm speaking to a more reasoned people, and it would not hurt you to reason this out, because you're supposed to be the reasonable ones, right? Reason it out and say, okay, yeah, I might want to alter my communication on this, not the principle, right? Not the principle, not the value, but the angle of which I'm conveying it. All right. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, we got, who was that? So I wanted to finish up with the AX056's comment, who goes on to say, if you've reached that level of professionalism in the military, there's always someone kicking you in the arse to do better. Does anyone think he's not going to get that in law school? Yeah, agreed, man. It's a great point. So this person is feeling like there's all this racism that's going on in the military, and he feels like he's getting picked on and pushed around and all that sort of stuff. You think that you ain't gonna get that in law school, just like this person said. You think that, in the field of litigation, or if you want to go into politics, you ain't really gonna get pushed around. Come on, man. So and while you're going, to study law, I mean, what you gonna be doing, man, when it's time for you to practice your arguments and stuff like that? Are you gonna accuse the other counsel of being of racism, for being your adversary? It's like, what you gonna do, man? It's not gonna make any sense. What's your arguments? Well, you're just arguing with me because you're racist. Oh, you called objection because you're a racist and all that sort of stuff. It's like, is that how it's gonna go? No, nobody can disagree with you, because if they do, it's racist. That don't make any sense, man. But obviously this person must want to go into politics. I'm pretty sure he wants to go into politics, and and this person is going to be there basically rubbing elbows with the very party. He's going in, I'm pretty certain he's going to be in there as a Democrat. He's going to be rubbing with the very elbows with the very people who are oppressing him, the very people who instituted all this racism that he's insecure about. Right? Ironic, right? I'm telling you, man, there's just full on Twilight Zone episodes. You can make a new Twilight Zone, man. Give it a different name and stuff like that. That the irony, the haunting irony, the satirical irony that we could make out of this, man. It's so much material. It's a dang shame, man, that we don't have support, to really do a series like that just totally lampoons the lunacy of what Democrats do. Let's see, we got Chrono Strike says, people don't react to reality, they react to their perceptions. All right. The feeling of being outsiders is probably true, but can you ever feel comfortable around people you are constantly scrutinizing for secret racism? The missing element is trust, and being too suspicious of people ensures that you can never develop trust, even if they don't actually do anything wrong. Yeah, I agree, man. So that was Chrono Strike who said that. Chrono Strike said that. And the sad part is, y'all, is that the sad irony, another example of sad irony, is that wokeness is displayed in how much you distrust, right? That's what the whole woke culture is basically distrusting people, accusing people of something that they didn't do, right? And of course, we go back to, what is this all about? It's Democrats wanting us to go to war with each other because they're trying to tear down the republic, as I've already explained why they want to tear the republic down. Okay. But the strongest weapon to do that, y'all, well, one is accusations. That's how the devil introduced death into the world, by accusing God of holding out on Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve trusted the devil by default. They trusted the accuser, right? And that's how death gained dominion. This is how America's destruction, just like I believe it was Lincoln, right? Who said, hey, if our country is going to be destroyed, it's going to be from within, right? And the agents of this destruction are the godless, right? And represented by the Democrat Party. So it's weird, though, that, this wokeness, these people who claim to be so woke, their wokeness is for them displayed in how much they distrust people while trusting the very people who are doing them dirty, and that being each other. They're doing each other dirty, right? And they're imposing that on us as well. But that's woke, right? Let's take a look at what Chris let me see. Chris O'Neill says, I have no doubt that blacks face certain life challenges because of their skin color, but I reject that means other people don't face certain life challenges because of their immutable characteristics. I'm very tall. Chris goes on to say, I'm very tall, I have freckles, and in my younger years, I had bright red hair. Because of those immutable characteristics, I was mercilessly teased and bullied all through my youth and to this day. I occasionally get a snide remark about my height in particular. I could have let those challenges pound me into the ground psychologically and socially speaking. Fortunately, I didn't. People need to learn to man up and not let petty, stupid people get to them. If a person insults you or treats you badly, they're showing you their inferiority as a human being, not yours. Sometimes life sucks. Get used to it. Deal with it. If you want to whine, don't look here for sympathy. Okay, that's some good, pull yourself up by the bootstraps talk. However, that would be an example of that very. Sorry to say, Chris, it's a rather ignorant comment, and it's very insensitive. And I'll tell you why. It sucks, yeah, that you were teased for being lanky, tall, lanky, red hair, freckles, and stuff like that. However, there wasn't an institution, and it sucks to be teased and hazed and stuff like that, but there wasn't an institution brought against you, all right, that made it law to oppress you specifically. You see what I'm saying? That's where this kind of falls out. You're examining things through your own life experience, and yeah, that sucked for you, but there wasn't an institution that was brought against you. There weren't Jim Crow laws brought against you that said, hey, no freckles allowed. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I guess maybe a lot of Irish people may tend to have like red hair and freckles. I suppose, if you're maybe not if you're the Black Irish or whichever. I'm not sure how that works, but because there was the Nina, no Irish need apply and stuff like that. So, they tasted some of that too. Everybody's tasted racism. Everybody's tasted oppression, right? But I don't think there was an institution of where, people, who fit your description were made. It was a law that made it okay for somebody to say, hey, get up and move out of the way because I want to sit here. All right. I don't think there was an institution where you had to use a different bathroom. Or you couldn't go to school here because you had freckles, right? You can't go to school here. You can't be educated here. You can't be in the military in this capacity. You can't, fly planes in this capacity. And if you do fly planes, there has to be a separate thing for you to be in order to fly planes and stuff like that. So there was institutions that were put in place that were made to make sure that a certain group of people could not advance in society, right? Now, we don't have that. And if people still butthurting about that today, that's ridiculous. To just hold the whole country responsible for that when there is a group of whites who did that, but for some reason they're loyal to these people, who actually are the white privilege and who did put in systemic racism and stuff like that. There is and for some reason they're loyal to them. But siding with these people and complaining about the real racism that the Democrats imposed back then, or trying to compare, like when you have for example, trying to compare, your situation to laws, broad sweeping laws that were imposed on people. Man, I think when you're trying to tell people to man up, I'm sorry, man, but I think it's you who needs to man up. It's like you decided that your plight is the same. Your individual plight is the same as a nation of people, right? A multitude of people who are oppressed and made sure that they're and were under these apartheid policies that were put on them to keep them from advancing, right? Your plight ain't the same, man. I'm sorry that that you feel that way. And I'm not the kind of person who is hung up on race, man. But when I see stuff like that, it's like, no, dude, it's not even close. And once again, I say to black folks today, you ain't facing. To black folks today, you ain't facing nothing compared to what people of generations ago have faced. People who faced real flipping racism, the real stuff that Democrats, what you're facing today. I'm not saying that it's not real. What I'm saying that is crazy. I'm saying that it's crazy because you have aligned yourself with the oppressors. The racism is still real, but you've aligned yourself to the people who have manipulated you and are using you to bring about a new level of racism, right? You're given over to that. The racism is very real, and you've partnered with them, so you're gonna bring it back to where we're gonna see those things come about again, and it's gonna be the Democrats who are gonna do it, and you're helping them do it, and it's a really sad thing. Let's see. Tokyo Proud Boys. Probably all right. Tokyo Proud Boys says, let me see. I roll my eyes at the constant stream of interracial couples in commercials. Not because interracial couples bothers me, but because I know how deliberate their placement is. Amen. That's why Democrats are totally doing it. This is a manipulation tool. One, they're trying to make us sick of it, and they're trying to make people insecure about it, right? And trying to pit people against each other. They're trying to shove this down our throat. There's a strategy to this, y'all. I've been trying to tell y'all this for a long time, man. Trying to tell you this, and conservatives are falling for it. And they'll try to use the excuse, well, it's not because interracial relationships bother me. Democrats don't need that. You still giving them what they wanted by you saying I roll my eyes at the constant stream of interracial couples in commercials. That's all Democrats did. That's the only soundbite that they need. That's all they need, and they will use that to move the ball downfield. You just played into their hand, man. You just played into their hand. Because even when you try to cover it by saying, not because interracial couples bothers me, no, they've already got you saying that you're tired of it, right? That's all they need. You just help them, right? So at any rate, but I hear you though, man. I understand what their strategy is, right? I know what the strategy is, and they're using black people to promote an agenda. Right? I've tried to warn conservatives about this in more subtle ways, but unfortunately, now I got to say it just as blatantly, I guess, as you do, because conservatives didn't flip and listen. Right? You try to be polite and try to say, look, man, I'm trying to tell you this under radar, where it won't be as detectable by Democrats, and we can rework our strategy, in the war room. But unfortunately, conservatives don't get it, so now we just got to be blatant about it, and Democrats use that stuff against you. Okay, anyway. So let's see. It's like the producers of the advertisement are trying to say, hey, look at this, you guys, you bigots. This exists. What do you think about that? I hear you. Yeah, that's what Democrats are doing. Yeah, our minds are not blown, and that's pretty insulting. I'm actually in a interracial relationship myself and don't really think much about it, but clearly they do, right? So, and obviously, you're in a relationship because probably your significant other is insecure about what they are, and they're ashamed of it, and they want to be something else, and that's why you guys get to date, and that's just the childish stuff that Democrats play, right? And y'all, this is one of the reasons why I did Sinisterbia. I was hoping to get more support for that. I'm not trying to guilt trip anybody, because the Democrats, they caught on to it, and they made sure that it was squashed, right? That hardly anybody saw it. It was just a low budget parody that I had put together. I wanted to make a series. I wanted to make an analogy, anthology out of these, make a series of it, pointing out the irony of the stuff that Democrats do. And in this episode, that we did earlier on, as early as 2016, it showed a interracial couple, myself and I had someone playing my spouse, and I wanted to get ahead of this. It's like, look, man, we need to get ahead of this. Just show, because I think most of the conservatives that I know are in interracial relationships. It's a thing that we don't really make a big deal out of, because hey, people are people, man. It's like people fall in love, that's just the way it is. It's a wonderful thing. If you're just on their frequency and you guys get along, you just get along, and if you're attracted to each other, you're just attracted to each other. It doesn't matter, what your nationality is, You know, that's just it's just the way it is. If you're on each other's frequency, that's what's up. So, and I know a lot of conservatives, I think most of the conservatives I know, they're in interracial relationships because they just get each other. Okay. So, and in the episode of Synestherbia that I did, that's what I wanted to get ahead of, because y'all, I know how Democrats are. I know how they are. And I knew that they were going to be the ones who wanted to jump in front with this narrative to make it look like they're the ones who are tolerant of it. And you're the worst people, conservatives, because you guys are against it. Right? You guys aren't ahead on this. You guys are still in the Stone Age as far as this goes. You guys are just still all about your whiteness, and anybody else who's not white are just a bunch of tokens, and you guys don't believe in this sort of stuff. And we're the ones who are progressive, and we're ahead of the curve on this. Oh, and by the way, since interracial, we're so about interracial relationships, you can see how we should be able to get those sympathy votes for same-sex relationships, right? That's how Black people are being used, right? So Democrats have been doing this, and I tried with conservatives, like, look, dude, get a handle on this and get ahead of it before Democrats do, because they're going to use it for the wrong reasons. Show that this is something that's already normal, right? Is it the predominant? No, it can't. You can't see it as definitely predominant, because white people are the a high population, right? It's just higher in population, so it's not like you're going to see this everywhere. No, of course not. It's just not possible, because the math won't add up on it. But is it natural for conservatives to say, look, man, if I fall in love with you, it's because I just fell in love with your character. I don't necessarily have a preference, right? It's like, you know, and people do, and it's not wrong to have preferences. If a person prefers a particular skin tone, or it's like you have your preference. The bigotry comes in when you reject a person because they're a different nationality, right? If you have a preference, right? If you have a preference for a particular nationality, that is when it kind of gets into or not no. If you have a preference, there's nothing wrong. It's like you're attracted to certain attributes. I don't blame you. You're gonna spend the rest of your life with a person. Hey, try to get what you want. Be what you're attracted to. If you prefer a certain skin color, you prefer a certain eye shape, you prefer a certain characteristics in a person's that come with a certain nationality that is typical, if I may, of a certain nationality. Sometimes, there's exceptions to every rule and whatnot. That doesn't make you a bigot. That's not bigotry. When you have these kind of preferences, but when you reject, or you're like, I absolutely not date outside of my race. Yeah, that's something else, right? But if you just prefer certain things, if you prefer dating within your race, right, that's one thing. If you're opposed to dating outside of your race, that's something else. That's just big. That's elitism and stuff like that. That's something that's not really prevalent, with conservatives. That's not really a thing with conservatives, right? It exists in some places, but like I said, I only say that out of maybe just because it's human nature, and I don't just assume. I'm not assuming that, oh, that's just how it absolutely is. I haven't met these people, but I can't rule out that it exists, but I haven't met them, right? Because with conservatives, it typically is, yeah, dude, it's the content of your character that matters. I don't really have this. I'm not going to reject a person just because of their nationality and not want to fall in love just because they're not the same nationality as me, right? I don't like to use the word ethnic. That's a gross misappropriation of words. I have videos that explain that, right? But in terms of their nationality, that's not really a conservative mindset. But in Synestherbia, that was one of the things that I wanted to help conservatives get ahead with in this satire, because conservatives should have cornered that. And it's like, conservatives, you want to corner this, man. You want to make sure that you claim ground on this, because if you don't, the liberals are going to get ahead on it, and they're going to use this stuff against you, and it's more leverage for them to get this race war that they want. We should have put the brakes on that, but unfortunately, it was difficult to get the support for that too. And like I said, a lot of it's because Democrats already saw what I was doing, and they made sure a lot of people didn't see my efforts to try to put this series out, so they hid it from everybody with the shadow banning. But I tried, with conservatives, like, dude, don't let them shadow ban me. And don't let them take this away. Support this so I can keep more of stuff like this coming. And unfortunately, just the support wasn't there. So once again, the Democrats, they got the ball, right? Let's see. And one more, y'all. One more. Let's see. Greg C says, what do you call a black man flying a plane? A pilot, you racist? That was a good one. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, make sure you visit. I hope you guys visit the site if you guys appreciate this content and you would like to see these, placed in more creative means where we can try to, connect with people with more imaginative mediums, because that's how liberals get to them. They get to them by tapping into their imagination so they can lie to them, right? Let's use that same kind of stuff to be able to tap into their imagination so we can convey the truth to them, capture their attention. So if you support, we can put these I hope you guys think that these are well-reasoned perspectives that I put out there, and put them in more creative means so we can, connect with these people and promote some sanity in the culture, y'all. So you can do that by visiting Bronze Serpent Media, bronzeserpentmedia.com. It's in the description box. Hit that tip jar, y'all. Drop a buck in the bucket if you want, right? One or two or whichever. You can connect with me on Patreon and all that sort of stuff. You can get the merch, y'all. Get these shirts, man. True Rule Books. Don't let Saul Alinsky have that. Don't let Saul Alinsky claim what a radical is. He doesn't know what a radical is. He's not a radical at all. He's a rebel, right? Like the one he dedicated his book to. Talking about Satan, Lucifer being the first radical. Lucifer wasn't a radical. He was a rebel, right? If he was a radical, he would have stayed rooted in the word of God, right? This is the real rule book for radicals right here, y'all. The word of God. Get this shirt out, man. Don't help these liberals control the narrative on this. To say that there's a rule book for radicals, it's not. It's a rule book for rebels, right? Saul Alinsky. Don't let him. Don't be agents of helping him promote that lie, right? Be the real radicals, rooted in the word of God. Radicals standing up against the rebellion, the rebellious against the Constitution, right? All right, y'all. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one.